Tim Bradley says that Canelo, hey, get the payday, you want payday? I know that Alvarez would beat David Benavidez. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I am back with some more boxing. In an interview with KO Artist Sports, Tim Bradley was talking about the potential for a Benavidez fight. Who would win? Now, a lot of people are saying Canelo, he's not looking the same, he's looking washed, he's long in the tooth, etc. Tim Bradley's response to this was, quote, "What? Are they saying that Canelo can't beat Benavidez? They're crazy. They're tripping. What? You can assume that because you're only as good as your last performance." Again, I've been in his shoes. I haven't had 60 fights, but I know how he's feeling. His body is a bit tired. Fatherhood and family things get in the way at times. But trust me, Canelo, he has a reputation that he has to uphold, and he takes that seriously. Now, if he fights a fighter that's up there and he knows it, he's going to program him into a monster. Canelo, he beats Benavidez. I love Benavidez, but I think he beats him. He outboxes him. Benavidez makes a ton of mistakes. Caleb Plant was outboxing him for the first 6 rounds. Things will get interesting when he fights Canelo on the back end because Canelo seems to fade. So that's when things get interesting in favor of Benavidez. But I think Canelo is strong enough and has experience in order to weather the storm and figure it out and win on points against a guy like David Benavidez. Listen, I don't know what Tim Bradley's talking about, but I'm going to give you my thoughts. I see this with people, they want to be impartial and like have this bias for Canelo Alvarez. And like when I'm listening to the breakdowns from a boxing perspective, it really doesn't make sense. You're comparing David Benavidez struggling in the first 6 rounds to Caleb Plant. Well, like, what are we talking about? At the end of the day, we all know this. Styles make fights. Rest in peace to Roger Mayweather. You know, these adages are there for a reason. So even though Canelo knocked out Caleb Plant, David Benavidez went 12 with Caleb Plant. These are different fights for different reasons. And we all know styles make fights. So Canelo himself was being outboxed by Caleb Plant, or it was competitive in the early portion, right? Just like the Billy Joe Saunders fight, there was some competitive moments in them early rounds, and then he ended up catching both of them, right? So David Benavidez has a puzzle because Caleb Plant can move laterally, especially in the first half of the fight when he's fresh and he's jabbing and stuff like that. Caleb Plant also has different measurements. He's bigger than Canelo Alvarez. He has longer arms than Canelo Alvarez. And the biggest thing is the footwork. Caleb Plant has fast feet. Canelo has slow feet. I've told you since the Mayweather fight and before that probably. Canelo has cement shoes. That's what I call them. Slow feet. Canelo, if he had the ability like Pernell Whitaker's feet and footwork, he'd be almost unstoppable because that would push him closer to, you know, being a complete fighter. But just like Amir Khan, he has the blazing speed and, you know, a good frame and long arms and stuff like that. His kryptonite is his chin. Canelo's kryptonite is his slow feet. He's overconfident. And his other kryptonite for me is that he's now in divisions where he's not the biggest guy. Like he's not as tall as some of the people. So he has that compact frame. And then he fades in fights. So why is Tim Bradley comparing anything that David Benavidez you've seen in that fight to Canelo, knowing Caleb Plant has a completely different style than Canelo Alvarez? David Benavidez and Canelo is more of a shootout because David Benavidez, he gets his shots off. And the thing I really like is Canelo has stayed away from athletic guys. And David Benavidez has deceptively fast hands. He's really quick-handed. Canelo has fast hands. So that becomes a different proposition when you have a 6'2" dude who has fast hands, right? David Benavidez, he doesn't have the monstrous defense, but he does seem durable. He has youth on his side, so it's a great fight. It's a winnable fight for both, but to compare anything that you've seen in Benavidez and Plant, we're talking about two different things. And I think Tim Bradley knows that. So I disagree. You know, I'm not confident that Canelo beats Benavidez. Like, you had a guy with a broken nose in John Ryder, and everyone, you know, most people are saying you look subpar, you look mid. How do you look mid versus John Ryder? Put John Ryder, people keep saying, oh, he's just tough. Some guys are hard to beat. You know, you can't knock everyone out. Okay, for sure. Put John Ryder in with David Benavidez, and that would be a tune-up fight, and he would get stopped. I promise you that. Put John Ryder in with David Morrell Jr., and that would be a fight where people wouldn't even give David Morrell credit for knocking him out, which is exactly what would happen, which is why Eddie Hearn and John Ryder duck smoke with David Morrell, right? So let's not act like John Ryder, who has 5 losses and has been stopped before, let's not act like he's something more than what he is. He's a domestic level guy with heart, you know, and everyone wants to baby Canelo and, you know, dodge the true facts. Like I always say, LSI, let's see it. If you're that confident in Canelo, everybody keeps saying everything but let's see it. I'm on that let's see it. Your boy Ego, he's saying let's see it. If Canelo beats Benavidez easy and he beats him on points, then you should be pushing for the fight harder than me. But the reality is that's not what we're seeing. The people who are like, oh, Canelo's the face of boxing, they're not pushing as hard as me. They're not pushing like Floyd Mayweather to see the fight, or Errol Spence, who said he wants to see Canelo Benavidez. They're not. So you tell me what that is about. You know, it's the same way that Canelo fans, when Canelo fights someone you know the public doesn't want to see him fight, like Avni Pilgrim or whatever, Average Children or whatever his name was, or John Ryder, you know, Canelo fans accept it and say, oh, Canelo's the face of boxing. But then when there's a tough black fighter, Mexican fighter, Cuban fighter that people want to see in their bigger fights, then the Canelo fans say, oh, they just want a payday. Andre just wants a payday. Benavidez just wants a payday. Oh, Charlo, he just wants to payday. All these guys don't deserve it, but John Ryder and Yildirim, coming off a 2-year layoff and a loss, he deserves it just fine. Stop it. So let me know if you agree with Boxingego, the king of boxing talk, or Tim Bradley, and I'm out.